That the Russian Mafia is the most fearsome, the most treacherous, most violent of all the organized crime groups that I've ever worked.
But violence wasn't all that set the Russians apart.
I remember when Scotland Yard first discovered Russian organized crime, they said, what are all these PhDs from Russia staying in our most expensive hotels in downtown London?
These Russian guys have master's degrees, they're engineers, they're economists. It's a whole different notion of organized crime than what we've had before.
This dangerous mix of sophistication and savagery has allowed the Red Mafia to muscle in on any racket that can make a profit, including the global arms trade. Back in Miami, the mention of weapons to the two undercover agents upped the stakes of the customs investigation. A surveillance camera set up in a Miami hotel room videotaped the meetings that followed. The Lithuanian gangsters presented the agents with a catalog to browse through, the wares of a Bulgarian weapons manufacturer called Armamex. They were offering a shopping spree through stockpiles of discounted Cold War arms, tactical assault weapons, anti-aircraft guns, missile launchers, and more. It was just the beginning of what became a tense 2-year negotiation.
Part of this was like a chess match. We'd make a move, they'd make another move. At one point, they questioned our veracity. They accused us of being federal agents, and we just rolled right through it and kept on playing.
After the vodka-soaked lunches and champagne toasts, the two suspects would often head back to Eastern Europe to report to their shadowy superiors.
At different stages of the investigation, they would return to either St. Petersburg, Russia, or Lithuania. We believe that they were reporting to either former KGB agents or other former members of the Soviet arms establishment.
Finally, the two parties agreed to a major deal. 40 surface-to-air missiles for $3 million, $50,000 up front. But the Red fellas had an even bigger sale in mind. One afternoon, driving with the agents through Miami, they made a heart-stopping offer.
One of them asked us if we'd be interested in a small nuclear weapon.
The agents didn't flinch. They said they might have a buyer in Latin America and agreed to the purchase. They didn't know if the gangsters really had access to a nuclear weapon, but their gut instincts said they did. By now, however, the situation was simply getting too hot. In June 1997, 40 shoulder-fired surface-to-air missiles sat on a ship in a Bulgarian harbor waiting to be delivered. The agents knew they had to make their move before it was too late.
It was getting dangerous. We had undercover agents at risk. At the same time, we had these two folks in Florida, so we decided to arrest them and end it.
10 months later, Alexander Pogrebetsky and Alexander Darachev were convicted for smuggling, money laundering, and conspiracy in a Miami federal court. But for criminals more accustomed to Soviet-style justice, their sentences, 3 years in prison, were barely a slap on the wrist.
We've been told point blank by people we've debriefed, send me to jail here. It's just not that big a deal.
This case is just one example of the global threat posed by the Red Mafia. In just a decade, they've taken hold in the United States, as well as nearly 60 other countries.
Russian organized crime is engaged in every kind of illicit organized crime that we know of. You can be in banking fraud, you can be in smuggling, you can be in gun trafficking. It's this diversification that makes them able to exploit every opportunity that comes their way.
The roots of this underworld can be traced back centuries to a secret criminal culture that survived both Tsarist terror and Soviet treachery, the thieves' world.